Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. So let's look back at their last few fights. Who has had the tougher competition lately? Um, so we'll go back to, we'll say their last four fights. So you got Mayweather faced Robert Guerrero in 2013, and then you got Manny Pacquiao's last fight was Juan Manuel Marquez for the fourth time. So who faced the tougher competition in that fight? Obviously Pacquiao did. He lost that fight, but he was winning that fight. Marquez caught him with a right hand, and that was lucky that he got that punch, but still Marquez won. And but anyway, this video is just all about who faced the tougher competition. So Manny Pacquiao was on his way to winning that fight against Juan Manuel Marquez. And like I said, if he got up for that punch and science didn't take over and his brain didn't shut down, Manny Pacquiao would have got up and would have won that fight because he was beating up Marquez. So Juan Manuel Marquez is way better than Robert Guerrero. So Manny Pacquiao wins that one. Now we'll go on to their third fight, last fight. Mayweather faces Saul Alvarez, Canelo he faces, and Manny Pacquiao faces Brandon Rios. Canelo definitely the better opponent, and Mayweather wins this one. And the Mayweather, I actually think this was one of Mayweather's best performances in recent times, but stylistically, Canelo was very slow. But nonetheless, Canelo was a big man. He was strong, undefeated. So you got to give that one to Mayweather for the tougher opponent there. But Brandon Rios, you got to think that was after the knockout. So Brandon Rios was kind of a tune-up fight. And Manny Pacquiao obviously dominated that fight, clearly. And, to go back to the fourth fight, the Robert Guerrero, Mayweather clearly won that fight, dominated Robert Guerrero. That fight, I remember when the fight was announced, I'm like, this is just bullshit. He's getting paid this much to fight Robert Guerrero. So Robert Guerrero is just, that was a bad opponent. And so it's 1-1. Robert Guerrero, Juan Manuel Marquez. Juan Manuel Marquez was the tougher opponent. Manny Pacquiao won. And Saul Alvarez versus Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios was tough, only lost once, but it was a tune-up fight. Manny Pacquiao still dominated all the fight, but the tougher opponent, you would say, is Saul Alvarez. So give that one to Mayweather. Now let's move on to their second 2 fights ago. Mayweather back in 2014, Marcus Maidana for the first time, and Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley 2, the rematch. Timothy Bradley, in my opinion, was top 3 pound for pound at that time. He beat Ruslan, then he beat Marquez, and he had that win over Pacquiao the first time, even though that was a robbery. But still, he beat the guy that beat Pacquiao at that time, and he looked good doing it. So Timothy Bradley is way better than Marcus Maidana is. Timothy Bradley is an elite fighter, and he showed that against Marquez. And the way he fought against Ruslan, I honestly thought he said he was depressed and he didn't fight the game plan he wanted to. He just wanted to go out there because he was just pissed at the world kind of thing. But anyway, Timothy Bradley definitely is the tougher opponent compared to Marcus Maidana. And Marcus Maidana actually won the fight against Mayweather in a lot of people's opinions. In my opinion, I thought Maidana won that fight. But I watched again, it is a close fight. You could go either way. Either 2 rounds, you could either go either way, 2 rounds ahead for Mayweather, 2 rounds ahead of Maidana, or a draw. But that fight was close, and I did thought Maidana won it, but I watched it again, it was a close fight. And really, Maidana's a B-level fighter. He's good though, but he's a B-level fighter. And the way Manny Pacquiao beat Timothy Bradley, a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter, Manny Pacquiao looked good for especially the caliber of opponent that was in front of him. He looked good. So, who is the tougher opponent? Timothy Bradley by far. And so let's move on to their last opponent. Mayweather fought Maidana for a second time. Manny Pacquiao just fought Chris Algieri. So who is the better opponent between Chris Algieri and Marcus Maidana? Marcus Maidana actually hurt Mayweather in that fight, but Mayweather won the fight. And he ran more, he held more, made Maidana wear heavy gloves. But really, when you look at this fight, Chris Algieri, he had a title and was undefeated. And he beat Ruslan, coming off a big win off of Ruslan, and beat Emmanuel Taylor way better than Broner did. And if you think Chris Algieri is way better than Broner is, and really, So, Chris Algieri, I think, is a B-level fighter. Marcus Maidana, I think, is a B-level fighter. But in my opinion, Chris Algieri was the tougher opponent. And, but really, it is a close one. It's almost equal, I would say, though, between those two. But I would pick Chris Algieri just because he was undefeated, and he had a title, and he beat the beast Ruslan, who no one thought he was going to beat, and he beat Emmanuel Taylor way better than Broner did, and a lot of people think Broner is good. So anyway, when you look at that, So when you look at that, I think Chris Algieri was the tougher opponent. So let's go over the score for the last 4 fights. So I would say, let's go back here. Robert Guerrero versus Juan Manuel Marquez. Marquez was the tougher opponent. Then you go to Brandon Rios versus Saul Alvarez. Saul Alvarez was the tougher opponent, so it's 1-1. Marcus Maidana versus Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley was the tougher opponent, so it's 2-1. And then Chris Algieri versus Marcus Maidana, so it's 3-1. But that one is a close one. Marcus Maidana and Chris Algieri are around the same skill level. Not the same skill level, but they're around the same caliber of fighter so far, it seems to be. They're both good B-level fighters. But if I had to put both of them against each other, I would go with Chris Algieri. Because I think in this fight, it could go either way, Chris Algieri versus Marcus Maidana. But, hey! Sorry about that. But I think Chris Algieri versus Marcus Maidana could go either way, but I think Chris Algieri is the tougher opponent. I think Chris Algieri would beat Marcus Maidana. But whoever had the better game plan and whoever was more prepared for that fight would win that fight. But Chris Algieri, we all know he's always prepared. Marcus Maidana, if he came prepared, I still think Chris Algieri would win. But like I said, it could go either way, whoever has the better game plan and whoever's more prepared. But if Maidana could win the fight, but he could not knock out Chris Algieri. Manny Pacquiao came very close to knocking out Chris Algieri. You could have said he pretty much did almost. And Ruslan couldn't knock Chris Algieri out. Maidana definitely can't knock Chris Algieri out because Maidana is just too slow and one-dimensional like Ruslan is. So that's why I think a Maidana versus Chris Algieri would kind of be similar. And the only way Maidana could win that fight is if he caught Chris Algieri. Somehow he caught him a lot and dropped him a lot, but he could not knock out Chris Algieri. The way Marcus Maidana could win would be similar how he beat. It would be similar to the way it looked when he beat Adrian Broner. That's the way he would win if he would beat Chris Algieri. But then again, Adrian Broner has horrible legs. He's flat-footed, stays right there, gets hit a lot, stays on the ropes like an idiot, uses that shoulder roll, Philly shell, doesn't know how to use it at all. Chris Algieri has way better legs, moves around way better, is way more skillful. I think Chris Algieri is way better than Adrian Broner. And Chris Algieri I think he would win the fight the same way he beat Ruslan. So I just think Chris Algieri has more skills than Maidana does. But Maidana does the one thing well, but one-dimensional won't beat Chris Algieri because he's not going to knock out Chris Algieri. So I would pick Chris Algieri to beat Maidana, and he is the tougher opponent. So who has faced the tougher opponents in recent years? Manny Pacquiao. Who has looked better beating the opponents in recent years? Manny Pacquiao. So that's my video. Thanks for watching.